I first went to Afghanistan in 1978. I was a young freelance photographer, and I just happened to be in Pakistan looking around for interesting stories. I just by chance met some refugees in the hotel I was staying in, and they told me about this war that was raging in their country, which happened to be just over the next mountain range. And they said, well, we would like you to come and photograph it because the world doesn't know what's happening in our country, and we need some kind of publicity. We want to get the story out to the world, and come with us and we'll show you what's happening in our country. So there was a lot of trepidation, but I went, and what I saw, what they showed me, was a country in civil war. Villages had been destroyed. People had taken up arms and were fighting against the central government. I got very kind of interested, and it ended up being a story that I've followed for the last almost 30 years. During those war years, there was close to 3 or 4 million refugees living in Pakistan and Iran. There's a lot about Afghanistan that I love and that I'm fascinated by. One thing is the people. The people are enormously generous. I don't think there's a more hospitable people in the world than an Afghan. They'll give you the best food. You can stay with them for, the wonderful sense of friendship and hospitality. It's a place where I have friends. I know the terrain, I know the country. It's a story I've enjoyed following. It's a place that I'm concerned about. I think we all want the best for Afghanistan. It's a place where I would love to see democracy and freedom take root, and for the people to have a good life, have health care and education. So, it's been a place that's been near and dear to my heart. Afghans have a great sense of humor, and they love to play pranks. I remember this one time, it was a very hot summer day, and we were all very thirsty. But the river was way down this embankment. It must have been maybe a quarter of a mile down this touch, and we didn't want to go down because it was too far. So this one guy volunteered to go down, and he brought back a drink of water for me, but it was in his plastic shoe. He had brought back my drink in his place, and I thought, well, how can I, I'm not going to drink from your shoe. You've been walking in this shoe all day long. So he gave it to somebody else. So we kept walking. About another hour, I was continuing to be thirsty, and I said, I think maybe I'll have that drink after all. So he went down, and we didn't have any buckets, so he went down and brought back this drink in his plastic shoe. It tasted great. I mean, it was maybe the best drink of water I think I've ever had in this guy's shoe. I did a story on the Afghan-Pakistan border in 1984 for the National Geographic. It was a look at the 3 or 4 million refugees that had been flooding out of Afghanistan into these camps. And one afternoon I was in one of these camps, and I came across a tent. It was a classroom in this kind of a school. And I went in, asked the teacher if I could get permission to photograph the class and the students. And as I was kind of surveying the situation, I noticed this very beautiful little girl in the corner of the tent with these very kind of haunted, beautiful eyes. I was amazed. I thought that this is a kind of incredible little girl. There was no way of knowing that the picture would ever be published or it would ever end up on the cover of the magazine. But I did feel that there was something really special about her, something very unique and disturbing about her look. But in a way that was exactly apropos to the story. I think that she came to represent this tragedy that was happening in Afghanistan. Her face, in a way, became sort of a symbol of Afghan refugees. And I think she represented them very well. I think she represented them with dignity, there was a sense of fortitude. In her look, I think that you could see that there was a proud, determined look. After 9/11, when the world's attention turned back to Afghanistan, the Geographic decided to go back and take a look at Afghanistan. And part of what we were going to do was to see if we could find this Afghan refugee girl who had been on the June 1985 cover. And we went into the refugee camp where I originally photographed her. And this one man said he knew where she lived and he knew where her brother lived. he actually went and brought her back and her brother. When Sharbut Gula walked through the door, and I actually saw her standing there in front of me, I was a bit shocked because my image of her was of this 12-year-old girl, and here this 30-year-old woman was standing in front of me. Sharbut had no knowledge that her picture had been published or had been seen around the world, that it had been on the cover of National Geographic. So she was a bit bewildered and a bit surprised, you know, what's the fuss about? Because, I mean, she didn't realize that there were millions of copies of her picture out there in the world. I was very grateful to be able to meet her again and to photograph her. It's an extraordinary thing, considering her culture, to be able to actually meet her and to photograph her, because it's just simply not done in that culture. So the fact that she actually agreed to be photographed again showed that she really had a lot of trust and confidence that we had presented her in such a dignified way. I'm very happy that we were able to find her and to actually have that kind of reunion after so many years. I don't think anybody knows what the future holds for Afghanistan. On the one hand, you have the resurgence of the Taliban, which is real, and they're coming on very strong in the south and the east. And you also have this bumper crop of opium. There's more opium being produced in Afghanistan than the world can even use. There are glimmers of hope. I mean, there are success stories in Afghanistan, but they're kind of few and far between. Many of the Afghans, I think, want to move on. They want to have a good life. They want to have the best for their families. Having just been to Afghanistan just a month ago, I was really amazed at the progress that's being made. And they have cell phone coverage almost all over the country. The roads are being paved. There's many skyscrapers going up. There's new schools all over the landscape. It's just amazing how quickly it's been transformed from the dark years of civil war just 6 or 7 years ago. Afghanistan never ceases to fascinate me. I mean, on the one hand, this is one of the most dangerous countries to work in the world, yet you have all this amazing ancient land full of amazing architecture, and there's a mix of Persian and Arab and Indian and Central Asian and European. So it's kind of been this kind of melting pot, and a place where it's been fought over thousands of years. So Afghanistan has seen a lot of history, and it continues to fascinate, and the intrigue that goes on between the neighboring countries. There's always some undercurrent, some political game being played out between Afghanistan and its neighbors, and it's a game that continues through today.